You know that specific feeling? It's usually around 4 p.m. on the last Sunday of a 2-week vacation.
Oh, I know this feeling all too well.
You're sitting in an airport terminal, right? Waiting for your zone to be called. Or maybe you're in the back seat of an Uber watching the familiar skyline of your city get closer. And instead of feeling refreshed, instead of feeling like a new person ready to tackle the world, the dread starts to creep in.
The Sunday scaries, but on absolute steroids.
It is distinct, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've just spent 2 weeks, and let's be honest, probably a small fortune, trying to relax.
A very small fortune. Yeah.
You followed all the rules. You went to the beach. You turned on the out-of-office auto-reply. You bought the paperbacks you were supposed to read.
You did all the things.
And yet, as you head back to reality, you don't feel recharged. You feel heavy.
I see this constantly in the literature. It is the paradox of the recovery holiday. The data suggests that for a huge percentage of the modern workforce, I mean a really huge number, the first sentence uttered upon returning to the office isn't, "I feel great." It's, "I need a holiday to recover from my holiday."
Which, on the surface, is a funny little joke we tell at the water cooler.
Yeah, we all laugh.
But if you really look at it, it's a massive economic and physiological failure. We are investing thousands of dollars and our most precious resource time into a system that isn't delivering the return on investment we were promised.
Not even close.
It just begs the question, why is relaxing so incredibly stressful?
Because I think we've fundamentally misunderstood the biological purpose of rest. We tend to treat leisure as a logistical challenge.
A project to be managed.
Exactly.
Right.
We try to win at vacationing. We treat it as another to-do list, another set of tasks to be optimized, rather than a physiological or, a psychological reset.
That is exactly what we're taking apart today. We have a fascinating stack of sources this week, centering on a very candid, very raw discussion from the Advanced Learner Studio.
A really great source.
It features 2 subjects, Emma and John. And I want to be clear, they aren't neuroscientists. They aren't gurus selling a lifestyle brand.
No, not at all.
They're just 2 normal people dissecting their own experiences with travel, mindfulness, hobbies, all of it, to figure out why some leisure activities recharge us while others just drain us.
And what makes this source material so valuable is its honesty. I mean, it's so relatable. They're looking at the disconnect between what we think should relax us, like a fancy trip to Rome or a meditation app.
The things we see on Instagram.
Right, exactly. And what actually recharges our batteries. And it turns out the things that look best on Instagram might be the absolute worst for your cortisol levels.
The mission for this deep dive is pretty clear then. We're going to crack the code of true downtime. We're going to look at why some activities leave us buzzing with energy and others leave us comatose. We're going to dig into the neuroscience of the monkey mind, the concept of flow states, and spoiler alert, we're going to make a fairly controversial argument that for some personality types,
I love this part,
scrubbing a toilet might actually be more relaxing than cooking a gourmet meal.
It sounds counterintuitive, I know. But the psychology behind it it's rock solid. It comes down to the difference between the checklist mentality and true agency.
The checklist mentality.
Okay, we're going to explore why we fall into the trap of sort of performing leisure rather than experiencing it.
So let's jump right into the deep end. Segment 1, the travel paradox. I think everyone listening can relate to this. The source material opens with John talking about a trip he took to Rome.
Right, and Rome is the perfect laboratory for this particular failure mode.
Why Rome specifically?
Because there is simply too much to see. There's an impossible amount of stimuli. John describes this trip as magnificent on paper, but then he admits that he fell into the checklist mentality.
The checklist mentality. I do this every time. I'm so guilty of this.
I think we all are.
You buy the guidebooks, you save the TikToks, you have this list, the Colosseum, the Vatican, the Pantheon, the Trevi Fountain.
The seas.
And there's this internal voice that says, I am in Rome. If I do not see these things, I have failed.
That voice is driven by something behavioral economists call time scarcity.
Okay, break that down for us.
Well, when you perceive a resource, in this case your time in Italy, as scarce, which it is.
Right, it's expensive. You only have 5 days.
Exactly. Your brain shifts into a harvesting mode. You are no longer experiencing the environment, you are extracting value from it.
Harvesting mode. That is such a bleak way to describe a vacation. It sounds like industrial farming.
It is bleak, but it's accurate. I mean, think about the cognitive load of that. You're in a new city, you're navigating a foreign language, managing transportation.
The metro system, the currency.
All of it. And on top of all that, you've created a schedule that is tighter than your workday back home.
Tighter, yeah. John admits he tried to cram every single historical site into a 5-day itinerary.
It's impossible, and it's counterproductive.
He said he was on a mission to see everything. And that word mission is so telling, isn't it?
It's so loaded.
It implies an objective, a success metric. Did I see the Colosseum? Check. Did I see the Vatican? Check.
Exactly. This is where productivity culture bleeds into our leisure time. It's a perfect example. We're so conditioned to optimize our output to get the maximum return on investment for our time and money that we apply that same logic to a vacation.
But a vacation isn't a spreadsheet.
It's not. And you have to consider the brain's perspective. Your brain is like a sponge with a saturation point for novelty.
Okay.
In a new city, everything is new. The street signs, the currency, the smell of the air. Your brain is processing gigabytes of sensory data just to walk down the street.
Right. Just to exist there is a lot of work.
It's a huge amount of work. Now, add to that the pressure of appreciating a masterpiece like the Sistine Chapel.
Oh, that pressure is real. You're standing there looking at Michelangelo's work thinking, this is world famous. I need to feel something profound right now.
You're supposed to be having a transcendent experience.
But you don't. You just feel tired and your feet hurt and you're wondering what's for lunch.
And that pressure, that gap between expectation and reality, it creates a meta emotion, anxiety about whether you are enjoying yourself enough.
The anxiety of not relaxing correctly.
Yes. And John admits that by day 3, he was essentially a zombie. He was physically present at the Vatican, but his mind had shut down to protect itself from the sensory overload.
There's actually a name for this, isn't there? Stendhal syndrome? Is that the right term?
That's the extreme version, yes, where people actually faint or have hallucinations when exposed to too much great art or beauty.
Wow.
But John experienced the modern, mild version, burnout. He treated his leisure time with the same efficiency metrics he uses at work, and his brain just...
Start being a processing machine for sites.
You're a data collector.
The source contrasts this really well with Emma's experience. She talks about a similar burnout trip to Thailand, where she was just running around ticking off tourist attractions.
The same pattern, different continent.
But then she mentions a shift in how she approaches it now.
She calls it deliberate downtime.
Yes, deliberate downtime. Instead of rushing to the next temple or the next beach, she talks about just sitting in a cafe, people watching and absorbing the atmosphere.
This is the critical distinction the source makes between a tourist and a traveler.
What's the difference in their definition?
A tourist is a collector. They're collecting sights, photos, and experiences to put on a mental shelf, to prove they were there. A traveler, in this context, is someone who immerses themselves in the rhythm of a place.
But it's so hard to do, isn't it? If I'm in Thailand, and I know I might never be there again, the fear of missing out, the FOMO, is paralyzing.
It is.
I feel guilty sitting in a cafe for 2 hours when I could be seeing a giant golden Buddha.
That guilt is the enemy of relaxation. It's the voice of the checklist. But let's look at the science of memory formation for a second.
Okay.
Emma's point about quality over quantity is the antidote to that guilt. Sitting in that cafe for 2 hours allows your nervous system to regulate. Because she wasn't rushing, her brain had the bandwidth to encode the sensory details.
Like what?
The smell of the coffee, the sound of the mopeds, the humidity in the air, the things that actually make up the experience of being in Thailand.
So she actually remembers the cafe better than the temples she sprinted through.
Precisely. Because she was actually present for it. Her brain wasn't in harvest mode, it was in experience mode.
But to your point about the cost, if you spend $5,000 on a trip to Italy, you feel a pressure to consume every bit of Italy possible.
Of course.
How do you get over that?
You have to reframe the ROI, the return on investment. If the goal of the investment is see maximum objects, then yes, sit in the cafe and you lose money.
Right.
But if the goal of the investment is return to work with a restored baseline of dopamine and lower cortisol, which is what a vacation is supposed to be,
the actual point of it all,
then the cafe is the high yield activity. The running around is the waste.
That is a massive perspective shift. It's about giving yourself permission to miss things.
Yes.
You have to accept that you cannot see everything. And once you accept that, you're free to actually enjoy the things you do see.
It's the difference between a checklist and an experience. One is for the ego, the other is for the soul.
So travel is one big area where we get this wrong. But let's bring it closer to home. The source pivots to something that I think we all assume is the gold standard of relaxation. Nature.
Ah, yes, the nature cure.
Just go outside cure.
The standard advice, go touch grass.
Right. And Emma talks about hiking. She says it helps clear her head, which is the standard narrative we all use. But then she adds this caveat that I found so validating. She says that even when she's surrounded by trees and fresh air, the internal chatter persists.
She introduces the concept of the monkey mind.
The monkey mind. I love that term.
It's a term often used in Buddhist traditions, describing a mind that is just. It's unsettled, restless, whimsical, fanciful, inconstant, confused, indecisive, and uncontrollable.
I picture a little monkey swinging from neuron to neuron, screaming about that email I forgot to send.
Yeah. That's a fairly accurate visual, actually, but in modern neuroscience, we often map this to something called the default mode network, or DMN.
Define that for us. What is the DMN?
So the DMN is a network of interacting brain regions that is active when you are not focused on the outside world.
Wait, so when you stop doing a task?
Exactly. When you stop working and just start walking in the woods, the DMN lights up. And the DMN is the home of self-referential processing.
Self-referential. So thinking about yourself.
It's where we think about ourselves, our past, our future, our social standing. It's the seat of the ego, in a way.
So wait a minute. When I stop working and go for a walk to clear my head, my brain doesn't turn off. It actually switches on the worry about my life network.
Precisely. The monkey wakes up. The moment there's a vacuum of external tasks, the DMN floods in to fill it.
But what does it do?
It starts checking for threats. Did I offend my boss? Did I leave the stove on? Am I wasting my life? This is why silence can be so terrifying for modern people. We aren't used to hearing the DMN that clearly. You can be in the most beautiful forest in the world, but if your DMN is looping on a problem from work, you aren't really there. You are just worrying in a prettier location.
That is so true. You're just taking your anxiety for a walk.
You're giving it a scenic backdrop.
So naturally, when the monkey mind takes over, we turn to technology to fix it. The source mentions meditation apps like Headspace and Calm.
Which are wonderful tools, don't get me wrong. They can be very effective.
But Emma brings up a common failure mode. She says half the time she gets distracted by the app itself. The notifications, the interface.
Or she feels like a failure because she can't empty her mind.
Oh, I have totally been there. You're sitting there, eyes closed, trying to be zen, and your brain is like, did I turn off the stove? What is for dinner? Why is my knee itching?
And then the meta-anxiety kicks in.
Right. Then you think, I am bad at meditating, which stresses you out even more. It's a vicious cycle.
This is a fundamental misunderstanding of mindfulness that the source corrects beautifully. And this is the expert insight we really need to highlight for everyone listening. Mindfulness is not about emptying the mind.
Wait, say that again, because that is what everyone thinks it is. You picture the Zen master on the mountaintop with a completely blank mind.
That is biologically impossible for a functioning human. It's a myth. It's a marketing gimmick in some ways.
So what is it then?
The source emphasizes that mindfulness is about noticing your thoughts without judgment and then bringing your focus back to the present.
So the goal isn't silence, it's observation.
Exactly. It's the act of returning. Every time your mind wanders to that email and you notice it and gently, without anger, bring it back to your breath.
That's the point.
That is the rep. That's the exercise. You aren't failing, you are practicing. It's like a bicep curl for your prefrontal cortex.
That takes the pressure off immensely. Just knowing you're supposed to get distracted.
The distraction is the opportunity to practice.
But the source suggests a practical way to do this called grounding techniques. Because watching your thoughts is really abstract and hard for a lot of people.
Yes. Grounding bypasses the DMN by forcing the brain to process high-resolution sensory data.
High-resolution sensory data. What does that mean in practice?
Well, Emma mentions focusing on specific sensory details. The texture of the grass, the sound of the birds.
So instead of thinking, I'm walking nature, which is an abstract thought, you focus on, my left foot feels pressure on this particular rock. Or, that bird call has 3 distinct notes.
Precisely. It goes back to bandwidth. Your conscious mind has a limited amount of processing power. If you force it to analyze the specific shade of green on a leaf, or the temperature of the wind on your cheek, or the sound of gravel crunching,
It doesn't have room for the other stuff.
it physically has less capacity, less RAM to maintain the narrative loop of your anxiety.
You crowd out the worry with sensory data.
It's a physiological hack to shut up the monkey. You're anchoring the brain in physical reality, which is the only place the monkey cannot go.
I love that. A physiological hack.
Yeah.
So we've covered travel and nature, which are often what we call passive relaxation. Now I want to get into something that the source calls active relaxation.
Okay.
And this brings up a hobby that I honestly haven't thought about since maybe 2012.
We were talking about the geocaching segment.
We are talking about geocaching. John brings this up as a blast from the past.
I was surprised to hear it's still a thing.
Me too. For anyone listening who missed this craze or thinks it died out, can you define what this actually is?
Essentially, it's a global, real-world treasure hunt. People hide small containers, they're called caches, and they post the specific GPS coordinates online.
And you use your phone or a GPS device to navigate to that location and find the hidden container.
Right. It's treasure hunting for the digital age.
Emma admits it sounds nerdy, and no offense to the geocachers out there, kind of is. But she says it's oddly appealing.
It is nerdy, but that's part of its charm.
Why? Why does hunting for a Tupperware container behind a 7-Eleven work as relaxation? What's happening in the brain?
It works because of the active part of active relaxation. Think about what we just said about the monkey mind and the default mode network.
Okay, the mind-wandering network.
Right. If you are just walking, your mind can wander. But if you are geocaching, you have a task, a clear external goal. You're following a compass, you're scanning the environment for clues, you're looking under logs.
You're solving a puzzle, a spatial puzzle.
It triggers a very primal circuit in the brain, the seeking system.
Seeking system.
Evolutionarily, we are hunters and gatherers. We are wired to scan our environment for targets, for resources. When you are geocaching, you are in hunt mode.
And hunt mode is focused.
It's singular. You cannot be drafting a mental email to HR while you are simultaneously triangulating GPS coordinates and looking for a fake rock. It's impossible.
Well, it does the same thing as the grounding techniques, just in a more playful way.
It occupies the worrying part of the brain. It gives the monkey a job to do, a job it's actually good at.
This connects to the concept of the flow state, doesn't it?
It does, very directly. The flow state, a term popularized by the psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi.
A name I can never pronounce.
Nobody can. But the concept is simple. It's that state where you are so absorbed in an activity that time seems to disappear.
You lose your sense of self-consciousness.
That's the key.
That's the holy grail, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you look up at the clock and realize 3 hours have passed and you haven't thought about your mortgage once.
That is the key, the loss of self-consciousness. When we are stressed, we are hyper-aware of ourselves. I am tired, I am anxious, I need to do X. We're trapped in our own heads.
But in a flow state,
the I disappears. There's only the task. It's a vacation from the self.
A vacation from the self. I like that.
And the source material highlights something crucial here. How we achieve that flow state varies wildly by personality.
One person's flow is another person's nightmare.
Which is the perfect segue to the great cooking versus cleaning debate in the source material. This was my favorite part of the discussion between Emma and John.
It really highlights the subjectivity of relaxation. Let's start with John. He finds cooking to be his flow state.
He describes it as tactile. Chopping vegetables, kneading dough. He calls it grounding.
It's very similar to the nature grounding we talked about. It's sensory. The smell of garlic, the resistance of the dough.
It pulls you out of your head and into your body.
But John also touches on the reality of failure in hobbies. He mentions the infamous quarantine hobby.
The sourdough starter.
Of course, the sourdough.
He admits his first few loaves were inedible, bricks, basically. And he mentions a beef Wellington attempt where the pastry was soggy.
Right, which sounds like a disaster.
But, and this is the key, he didn't care. Well, he cared, but he still found the process satisfying. He says it's a creative outlet where you get to eat your mistakes.
Eat your mistakes. I love that.
There's a psychological safety in that. We call it low-stakes failure.
Explain that.
If you mess up a spreadsheet at work, there are consequences. You could lose money, you could lose your job. If you mess up a beef Wellington...
You order a pizza.
It's a controlled environment to practice creativity without the threat of real-world ruin.
But then you have Emma, and I am definitely Team Emma on this one. Cooking stresses her out. The timing, the mess, the pressure.
Because for her, cooking represents high cognitive load. It requires multitasking, monitoring the oven, chopping the onions, checking the recipes.
It's like project management.
It is. And if your brain is already overloaded from work, adding more multitasking doesn't feel like a hobby. It feels like unpaid labor.
So her alternative, she says she finds cleaning therapeutic.
Cleaning is therapy.
I reacted the same way John did in the source. You're kidding. Who relaxes by scrubbing a toilet? That is a chore.
I know, on the surface it sounds absurd, but listen to her reasoning. It's fascinating. She says it's not about the scrubbing, it's about the result.
The end product.
She talks about taking a chaotic, messy space and turning it to something organized.
Order out of chaos.
Exactly. And think about the nature of modern knowledge work. It's often endless and abstract.
So true.
You send an email, you get 2 back. Projects drag on for months. You rarely get a sense of finished. You never leave the office thinking, I have completed the internet today.
That is so true. The work is never done. It is just paused.
Exactly. But cleaning has a clear narrative arc. The room was dirty. I applied effort. Now the room is clean.
A clear before and after.
It's a visible, tangible accomplishment.
It provides a sense of control.
Control and completion. For someone like Emma, whose life might feel chaotic or open-ended from her job, cleaning provides a microdose of agency. It satisfies a psychological need that cooking, with its potential for failure and mess, does not.
So the takeaway there is really different strokes for different folks. But more deeply, you need to identify what psychological need you are trying to fill.
That's the crucial question.
Do you need creativity and sensory play? Maybe try cooking. Do you need control and order? Maybe try cleaning your closet.
Precisely. Don't just pick a hobby because it looks good on Instagram. Pick one that scratches the specific itch in your brain. If you feel powerless at work, pick a hobby that gives you power. If you feel bored at work, pick a hobby that gives you surprise.
Now, speaking of surprise, let's talk about stepping way out of the comfort zone. Segment 5. John talks about taking an improv class.
Improvisational acting.
This sounds like my personal definition of hell. I mean, just terrifying.
For many people, yes.
Standing on a stage, no script, people staring at you, expecting you to be funny. John calls it terrifying.
But also hilarious. And he says it helps him think on his feet and embrace failure.
This seems counterintuitive. We're talking about unwinding. Why would doing something terrifying be relaxing?
It goes back to presence. Fear is a very, very focusing emotion.
How so?
If you are on stage and you have to react instantly to what your partner just said, you cannot be thinking about your laundry. You can't be thinking about your bills. You are forced into radical presence.
So it's a high-octane version of mindfulness.
In a way, yes. It recharges you through a different mechanism. Instead of soothing the nervous system, it stimulates it in a playful, controlled way.
It breaks the monotony.
Totally. Our brains are prediction machines. They love patterns. They get very efficient. But when life becomes too predictable, work, sleep, repeat, we get bored. Improv forces the brain to deal with the unpredictable, to be flexible.
And John brings up the core philosophy of improv. Yes, and.
Yes, and. It's the golden rule.
Explain what that means.
It means you must accept whatever premise your partner establishes. That's the yes, and then you have to build upon it. That's the and.
Okay.
So if I say, host, look at this giant purple elephant, and you say, there is no elephant, the scene dies.
Right. I've blocked you. I've rejected your reality. It's a dead end.
But if you say yes, and he's wearing a tiny hat, now we have a scene. We are building together.
I see. It's about collaboration and acceptance.
It is.
How does that apply to relaxation outside of a theater?
It's a mindset. It's about acceptance and adaptability. So much of our stress comes from resisting reality. I shouldn't be stuck in traffic. This meeting shouldn't be happening.
That resistance creates tension.
A huge amount of it, yes. And trains the brain to say, okay, this is happening, now what? It moves you from resistance to creativity.
It's a resilience tool.
It is. And stepping out of that comfort zone, trying something like improv, it prevents life from becoming a blur. It adds texture to your existence. It creates new memories.
So we have covered a lot of ground here, from the checklist tourist to the yes and improviser. As we move into our final synthesis, there's one piece of advice from the source that I think is the most important of all.
I know which one you're going to say. The permission to quit.
Yes. Emma and John both touch on this. If a hobby feels like a chore, let it go.
We have this tendency to turn leisure into another job, another thing to be good at.
We fall for the sunk cost fallacy.
Absolutely. I bought the guitar, I paid for the lessons, so I must practice 30 minutes a day or I am a failure.
And suddenly, the thing that was supposed to relax you is just another item on the to-do list causing you stress. It's another stick to beat yourself with.
The source is clear. The goal is to unwind, not to build a resume. If you try knitting and you hate it, stop. That isn't quitting, that is data gathering.
Oh, I like that framing. Data gathering.
You've learned that knitting isn't for you. Great, move on, try something else.
I love the specific, quirky routines they mention at the end of the source. It shows how personalized this all gets. John, for instance, schedules worry time.
Which is actually a cognitive behavioral therapy technique. It's a real thing. It's called stimulus control.
How does that work?
You give your anxiety a specific contained time slot, say, from 5:0000 p.m. to 5:15 p.m. every day. That is your designated time to worry as much as you want.
So when you start worrying at noon, you can say, not now.
Exactly. You say, I hear you, anxiety, but you have an appointment at 5:00. It allows you to compartmentalize the stress so it doesn't bleed into your entire day.
And he listens to jazz during that time. Meanwhile, Emma's big project is attempting to keep a cactus alive.
Which, for anyone with a black thumb, is a noble struggle.
It really is. I've killed a cactus before. It's not easy, but I did it.
It takes a special kind of talent.
But it's her version of nurturing. It's low stakes. It's about paying a little bit of attention to something outside herself.
Right.
So if we look at this entire landscape, geocaching, cleaning, improv, worry time, cacti, what is the common thread? What ties it all together?
Intentionality, that's the word. None of these things happen by accident. You don't accidentally end up in a flow state. You don't accidentally become a traveler instead of a tourist.
You have to choose it.
You have to choose it. You have to consciously decide to put down the phone, to step off the tourist trail, to pick up the spatula or the toilet brush.
It's about reclaiming agency over your time.
Exactly. Modern life is designed to steal your attention. The algorithms, the emails, the advertisements, they all want a piece of your brain.
They do.
The art of unwinding is really the art of taking your attention back and directing it towards something that nourishes you, whatever that may be.
So let's wrap this up with a summary of the toolkit we've built today. We started with the travel paradox, the idea that optimizing a vacation actually destroys it. We learned that to be a traveler, you have to embrace that deliberate downtime and fight the urge to harvest experiences.
We debunked the myth of the empty mind. We learned that mindfulness is about noticing the monkey mind, that default mode network, and using sensory grounding to bring us back to the present moment.
We looked at active relaxation, how puzzles like geocaching or creative risks like improv can force us into the flow state by occupying the brain's bandwidth and shutting down our self-consciousness.
And we settled the great cooking versus cleaning debate by realizing it's all about the underlying psychological need. Do you crave the creative process and low-stakes failure, or do you crave the control and completion of a finished result?
And finally, we learned the importance of yes and, of accepting the moment, and the equally important skill of quitting when the fun stops.
It really is a comprehensive toolkit for anyone looking to actually recover from their holiday or just from their Tuesday.
Here's a thought I want to leave you with, listeners. It comes from that yes and segment.
Okay.
We usually think of relaxation as saying no to the world, no to emails, no to meetings, basically retreating into a cave to hide.
Building walls.
Right. But the improv segment suggests something provocative.
It really does.
What if the best relaxation doesn't come from saying no and shutting down, but from saying yes and to a new, scary experience? What if engagement is more restful than withdrawal?
That's a powerful question. Is your brain tired because it did too much? Or is it tired because it's bored of doing the same things over and over?
Right.
Sometimes the best rest is a change of pace, not a full stop.
Something to mull over while you are scheduling your worry time.
Or scrubbing your bathtub.
Or scrubbing your bathtub. Listeners, we want you to find your own version of keeping a cactus alive.
Whatever that may be.
Whatever that quirky, grounding thing is for you, find it and do it on purpose.
Stay curious, and more importantly, give yourself permission to stop.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll catch you on the next one.